Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us early this Monday morning. We're going to be going through the final kind of steps of our survey process. Last week, we ran into some challenges creating some case record types. We ran into some support processes that we'll need to create in order to actually support the cases. So what we're going to try to do today is we'll just run through our journey. We'll go through a recap of where we are so far, and then we'll jump onto the CRM side and create a couple more building blocks that we'll need to actually get the survey process finished up. So again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to jump in. And if you're watching on the recording, please feel free to leave comments here or reach out to Tim or myself directly. All right, well, I will start sharing my screen and we can get after it. All right, so we've got our Marketing Cloud window here. We're looking at all of our journeys. So I'm just going to jump into our survey journey just to kind of recap where we came. So we've got an email that we send out to our members asking them how they're, whether they'd be likely to recommend our services as Cervelo Bank to their friends and family. When they click on that email, they get sent to a cloud page where they can give us a response. They either love us with a 10 or they're not so hot and they're going to give us a 0. That cloud page, when it submits, will actually inject them into this journey here using our Cloud Pages entry event from our Smart Capture form. From there, they get injected into the journey, and we actually create this survey activity within CRM. But we don't just want to create this survey object, so there are some pretty cool automation capabilities we have to follow up. So if we go into the journey version that we were working on last time, excuse me, we've got a couple splits here. So our first one is our promoter score. So we want to figure out, are these people like, do they really love us? Are they happy with us? If so, maybe we want to send them a testimonial. Maybe they're just lukewarm. Maybe they're, not, they don't love us, but they didn't have a bad experience, in which case we'll kind of move them along. Or maybe they're not happy with us. Maybe they gave us a 0, theoretically all the way up to 5. In that case, we're going to open up a case. We want to open up a triage case. We want to put it in front of our contact center for review so we can call these folks and say, hey, what's going on? What can we do better? How can we really kind of act on this feedback? And this is really what we're going to focus on today is what do we need to create in Salesforce CRM in order to support this follow-up process? The last thing that we've got here is if they are passive, or even if they were happy with us, we're going to fire them through one more decision split. It's going to evaluate that free text field on the survey just to see if they hit any certain keywords. If they do, we'll open up a case as well, just to review it, make sure maybe there is something we need to follow up on, maybe not, but just another way that we can kind of automate pulling out cases of interest that we want to flag and really get a human to look at. All right, so we need to create a case. So we kind of built the bones of this last week where we are, oh, excuse me, no, we didn't. So we've got to create new. So in this case, we're going to jump into CRM and we will start getting this created. So over here, I've got my CRM instance. We're going to jump into setup and we're going to head over to the case object. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new record type specifically for our survey follow-up. And this is where we ran into our challenge last week. In order to create a new record type, we've got to create a support process. So that's what we're going to do first. So we hit new, we're going to use our existing support process. And in this case, we are going to name this member survey follow-up. And best practices, I'm going to try to fill out my description fields here. And we are going to say used to support follow-up on submitted member surveys. All right, so in this case, we've got our standard values here, whether they're on hold, escalated, closed, or new. In this case, if they're not being worked, or hasn't been worked yet, I should say. And we're good. So we've got our new support process created. In this case, we'll come back to Object Manager. We're going to come back in the quick find and go to Case again. We're going to open up that standard object of Case. We'll come back down to Record Types. We'll create a new record type. All right, so we are going to call this member experience survey follow-up. And the last thing I like to do with this is I'm going to mark it as review. And the reason for that is that we may not need to follow up, even if this person's really upset with us. It may not be worth reaching out. You know, sometimes people are going to leave you negative feedback. They're going to just be really upset, and you know, you can take that text feedback, but they may not want a phone call. They may have told you, you know, I've given you my opinion. I'm all set. Please don't reach out. So in that case, these cases are really meant to be reviewed. You should follow up if you think it's warranted, but sometimes if somebody's pretty clear that this is it, they don't want to talk to you ever again, you know, you can kind of let that be. All right, so we've got our name autofilled here. And for our support process, we're going to select the one that we just created, our member survey follow-up. For description, I'm just going to pre-pop this with the use to support our member experience surveys. I've got it active. And I'm making it available in this case for all of our user types. But again, you'll want to evaluate this. This may not be what's right for your org. In this case, we're in a demo org. So I'm going to make this available to my users here. We'll go on for next. All right, we're going to put this on our case layout. We're going to apply this to all of our profiles in this case. We don't need specific layouts for specific profiles for this record type. And we'll hit save. Okay, so last but not least, we can come by and let's create a queue that we can actually assign these case types to. So come back into our, excuse me, let's go home. We'll come up to our quick find box.
Hello.
Create a queue here.
Audible.
Is there a question out there? We're getting a bit of feedback. Happy to answer anything if there's any questions.
Yes, Brulet. I don't have anything now.
Oh, nothing sharing?
Nothing about this. I did not attend the first class on
Okay.
November 8th, I guess, on previous week.
Mhm.
Where can I find that recording? I did not find, I'm not able to do that.
Yeah, so they are out on YouTube on our hands-on SFMC channel. Just 1 second, and we'll get that over in the chat. We do record these, and usually Tim is here in these sessions as well. He did let us know that he would try to have today's session up by the end of the day as well. So let me drop this in the chat. We should have, at least here, we've got a couple sessions on this. So we've got our how to create, you know, advanced surveys. In this case, this is going to be our requirements building session from 2 weeks ago. We started the build in our hands-on session here. You can see Gustavo gave a presentation as well about Holt University. Definitely recommend checking that out. And then last week, we actually went through, you know, injecting these contacts into a journey, troubleshooting our form submission, and getting us to where we are now. So there's 3 sessions on this so far, and today should be the last session in this. So it should be 4 parts by the time we're done with it.
Thank you, Brulet. It helps me. Thanks. Thank
Very
you.
well. Awesome. All right, so we will come back into Salesforce CRM here. Let me grab the right tab out of my nav bar. We're going to create a queue, and this queue is going to allow us to assign cases to it. So what we'll do is we'll have this available out in CRM, so we can assign certain users to the queue to work these cases specifically. Maybe you've got, you know, a large contact center team, and you just want your team leads reviewing the follow-up cases. Maybe you want everybody to have access. So again, you can decide who you want to assign to it. But in this case, we're going to create a queue so we can support it. Right. So again, I'm going to call this member experience survey follow-up. Queue name is going to auto-populate. In this case, we are going to use my Trailblazer email. We're not going to send an email on this. Again, you would expect cases to be coming through fairly often as you're triggering reviews out to your members. So we're not going to send an email every time a case comes through. What we'll expect is that someone is actively reviewing this queue throughout the day. And for our description, again, best practices, I'm just going to free text this, contains member survey review cases for follow-up. All right, last last but not least, I'm going to drop in our case object. So commonly cases tasks are what we generally see other folks using to support this. For this, we're going to be using the case object. And then for users, I'm going to add myself. And then I'll hit save. All right, so we've got our queue created. Last thing I'm going to do is just come out here into Salesforce. I'm going to do a quick refresh, and I'm going to go out and go find that case queue. So if I go to cases, and right here I can see I've got a list view automatically created for my member experience survey follow-up review queue. So we should have what we need now. We've got our page layout, we've got our case record type. We may adjust the page layout for that. I think there are some cool things that we can do with that, but I think we should probably test to make sure that our cases are showing up, and then we can troubleshoot if need be. So I'm going to come back into the Marketing Cloud side, and apologies, I'm going to move somewhat quick here just as I clear our data out so we can get ready to retrigger this. And if there are questions as we run through this, please don't hesitate to either drop them in the chat or come off mute. It's meant to be a back and forth session, so always happy to talk through what we're doing. In this case, I'm going to come through our survey results data extension. And I'm going to clear this out. And again, this is just going to make sure we're trying to prevent any duplicates. So I've got to clear this out to make sure that our form will come through and populate. All right, so we've got our results data extension cleared out. I'm going to come back here in Journey Builder. I am going to eliminate our testimonial email here just so we can activate this. We've got our survey activity here. Once they submit the survey, this should be creating that survey object on Salesforce CRM. We've got our promoters decision split. That's going to say if it's 9 or 10, let's send them down the happy path. If it's 8 or 7, let's send them down the passive path. Anybody 6 or lower is going to be sent down this detractor path. So this is the activity that we want to configure right now. So we'll come into our case creation object. I'm going to create a new case. Okay, and I haven't seen business hours ID before, so this is an interesting one. Let's see what we've got. Default sounds good to me. We'll leave a subject here. Excuse me, I'm just going to go on mute for a moment just to clear my throat. All right, hopefully that's a little better. So for our case subject here, we are going to say member experience survey review follow-up. And we've got a couple different optional items here. In this case, we do want to bring in our account ID. So this is going to create that relationship between the survey follow-up case and the actual account that submitted the survey. We've got our case origin. We're going to put this as web because it did come in from a cloud page. Okay, we've got our case type. Looks like that is some support from Tim's side. We're going to assign this to the contact in the journey. So for our contact ID field, again, this will allow us to traverse from that follow-up review case back to the contact. Date time open and closed should be set once it's created. For our description, one thing that's kind of nice to do, we can bring in, some additional comments. We can bring in our score results if we want. So in this case, what I suggest we do is bring in our promoter score result. We're going to copy this value. So this is going to be the number that actually comes through on that case that's created, whatever they populated in that survey form. We're going to pull this out. So I've copied this value. And for the description in our case, I'm going to say that member submitted a member experience survey with a low promoter score. Value of, and then I'm going to insert that bound bit of data that we just copied. I'm going to say, please review the survey comments to evaluate for follow up. And in that case, it's saying, take a look at this, see if it needs follow up. If it does, great, let's give them a call. If it doesn't, we can just close it out as processed and we're good. But this really reinforces that we want to be reviewing our feedback. We want to be acting on that feedback so we can try to make sure that our experience is going to be constantly improved. Okay, it looks like there's a couple other fields here specific to this org. Last thing we're going to do, we've got our owner ID here. So we are going to set this to that queue that we just created. So I'm going to type in member, and that's going to allow us to search the CRM side using the connector. We're going to pull up that follow-up review queue that we created, and that's where we want that to be assigned. No parent case in this situation. Our priority, we're probably going to mark this as medium. Our record type ID, we're going to use that survey that we created. So again, we've got member experience survey follow-up review. And then our status is going to be new. So no one's touched this yet. So we're going to mark this as new for creation. And this should be everything we need. So if it doesn't work, we'll come back and troubleshoot, but fingers crossed, this will help us get a case created. All right, so we're going to come through here. We've got our activity name. I'm going to say create case for follow-up, create follow-up review case. Going to hit done. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break out this keyword here. I'm going to delete this and we'll just create and troubleshoot one at a time. Going to check our keyword here. So we put upset. So we'll just tuck that away for our next round of testing. All right, so I'm going to validate real quick, then we'll get this activated and we'll run a contact through it and see what we get. So we are missing a message activity in this one. Again, we're not planning on triggering any outbound emails for this particular version of this journey. We can, if we had a high promoter score, it's a great opportunity for testimonial gathering. Some folks will point that out to review sites. Just be careful with that. You don't really want to only be asking people who are happy with you for reviews. You want to be aware of any terms of service with those review sites. Not great to be stuffing results like that, but great opportunity to send an email to say, hey, so glad you had a good experience. Would you be interested in sharing your story? You can send them to either another cloud page with another survey, send them a written form, some way of gathering that testimonial feedback. Your marketing team will love you when they go to actually update testimonials on your website or something, and you can provide them with recent feedback from members. Nobody had to lift a finger. It's all automated. That stuff is really powerful. All right, so we've got our journey activated here. We're up and running. We'll come back into Email Studio. We'll do a quick preview of our survey email. We can run through that for folks who are just joining us for the first time. And then we will test. Okay, so we've got our survey email here. I'm going to do a quick preview against our sending data extension that we set up in previous sessions. Then hands-on Boston marketers. Go to member experience survey. So in this case, our primary key, we've got this contact and which date they came in. In this case, it was 10/29. And we're going to say that Tim's not happy with us this morning, so he's going to mark us as 0. That click is going to take us to our survey here. We're going to mark as 0 again. What is the reason for your score? I'm upset. I want to have a follow-up case created. We'll go ahead and submit. We expect to be redirected back to that Kearney website. There we go. Awesome. So as we come back into Marketing Cloud, we'll take a quick look. I'm going to open up a new tab for this at our results data extension. Let's just make sure that everything came through as expected. And it is a good idea just to kind of test, each step of this before you get too far down the line. It really helps limit, where things might be going wrong for you. We check our survey results data extension. We can see we've got a new record here. Came in just now this morning. I'm upset and want to have a follow-up case created. Awesome. So we should have everything we need. So we'll jump back over to Journey Builder, refresh here just to make sure that our contact was processed. Not seeing them yet. Do a quick check. Okay, so it looks like we did have one evaluated and accepted. We're just not seeing them on the canvas yet. I'm gonna do a quick refresh just to see. All right, so we're catching up. There we go. We've got one entry. All right, we created our survey object, hit our decision split. Looks like they got routed properly. I'm not sure because I don't see them down there on the canvas. Check one more time just to see if they came through here. It's not going to let me see. All right, in this case, rather than continuing to refresh here, let's jump into CRM and see what we've got. All right, so last week we created a quick report to check, I believe. We may not have saved it, which would be unfortunate, but let's take a look. Oh, sorry, I went too fast there. It looks like we did. So Tim had saved the report. Awesome. All right, so we can see here we do have our survey created within Salesforce CRM. I can come here and look directly at it so we can see I'm upset. I want to have a follow-up case created. This was created just a couple moments ago by our survey process, so we've got a good survey in the system. We should have had a case created as well, so let's check out our queue and see what we've got. Here we go. So we can see if we're coming to our queue here, we've got our follow-up review case here. Status is new, opened just a minute ago. I can click into this case. Oh boy. I don't like that. Let's see what's going to happen if we click back in there. All right, so this is an interesting bug. I haven't had this happen before, so not sure what's going on there. But if we look at our details, we can see, oh, excuse me for the static here. We can see at least that this is hopefully Tim Cervello. We've got our contact email. Phone was brought in. It is new. It's a survey follow-up review, and I can't scroll down due to this bug, but we are seeing that we've got the actual follow-up score in there. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and edit this or try to edit this. And I can't, so I will come back to the case. I'm going to see if I can do it from here instead of trying to view. Edit this case. All right, there's a good view on it. So we can see that we've got a status of new. We don't have a type here. We've got our origin. You can see that member submitted a member experience survey with a low promoter score value of 0. Please review the survey comments to evaluate for follow-up. So we've got that actual score that they left, which is super helpful. Another thing we might be able to do would be to actually add like the
Hello.
comment section, and we can put that directly on this page as well. In this case, I am just going to drop this to see. I guess I can't close it out. So in this case, I'll put it on hold so we know it's being worked, and we'll go from there.
Hello, Bullet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So now we have a sales cloud as well, right? So why can't we store it in over there? Why can we store it in service only?
So we've got it in Sales Cloud. Where are we storing it in Sales Cloud, or where else would you want to store it? Do you mean like externally?
Yes. So I don't know the difference between the sales and service. So I'm
Mhm.
very new. So why can't we store it in sales cloud?
Yep. So Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, you're going to be able to create this object on the CRM side. So you
Mhm.
should have the case object. That's a standard object across Salesforce CRM. So you should be able to create it there. If not, you would be able to create your own custom object. It would be additional overhead. It would probably be, just extra work to manage. But this is really predicated on building your own objects to kind of capture all of this. So like Salesforce has survey functionality. In this case, we created our own custom object to store those survey results. I would definitely recommend using the out-of-the-box case or task follow-ups for this, but you wouldn't need to. Theoretically, you could build your own service process if you wanted to. One
Okay.
thing that we can do, I'll jump back to the reports real quick.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome. Here we go. So we go to reports. All right. So you can build different things on the reporting side as well. So like if you're more interested in actually tracking surveys and scores than you are in the follow-ups, you can build out certainly more intricate reports. You could put this into CRM analytics, for example, for troubleshooting. You could export them to your data warehouse. Maybe you want to look at things in Snowflake or Tableau. There's lots of options here. In this case, I try to keep everything as much in Salesforce as possible, just because that's where most of my stakeholders are working. But really, it's meant to be customized, so you can certainly take this to different areas as you want to. All right, awesome. So we've got our case follow-up. So I think the next thing I would love to do would be to actually let's test out our keyword cases here. So we're going to stop this version of our journey. We're going to create a new version, and then we're going to come through and we're going to replicate what we just did. But instead of being based off the score, we are going to use our keywords here. So we've got our keyword case object. In this case, we're evaluating the additional comments field from our web form. And if the additional comments field contains the word upset, we're going to send them down this path. And in this case, we're going to bring in a new case object. So we'll come down here, we'll grab our cases, bring it up to our keyword case path. And really, we're going to replicate what we just did. So we'll come down, we'll create new. We're going to set a standard business hours ID. This is the default, I believe. All right, subject, member experience survey keyword. Follow-up. I do think it's helpful to distinguish up front so you know whether this person left you a negative score or if they just happened to say something that, tripped this keyword filter. In our case for financial services, we have the keyword of branches. We know that our members, they love branches. They like being able to go access their funds in person. That's something that we get feedback on a lot. So we do have that keyword set up there. But if a member just leaves feedback that says, hey, I've given you a 10, I love you. The only thing you can do to take this to 11 would be to put a branch, right in my workplace. That's probably not something that we're going to spend time, giving them a phone call on. Appreciate the feedback. It's valuable feedback, but not something that we're going to call them on. So helpful to understand whether this person's upset up front, really unhappy with you, or if they're just giving you feedback. If that feedback was, there was an unsanitary condition in the branch located at Main Street, in that case, absolutely, we'll give them a call and say, hey, what's going on? Can you give us some more information about this? So, up to you if you follow up or not, but helpful to kind of indicate, are those keyword follow-ups or are they negative score follow-ups? All right, so we're going to come back through here. We are going to set up our account ID. Our case origin we had set as web. I don't think we did a case reason. No. Case source ID we didn't set. Case type I don't think we set. We will come through and set our contact ID to the person in the journey. For descriptions, we are going to say that members submitted a survey and tripped keyword filter in their comments. Please review and follow up if necessary. All right, no internal comments, no name. We'll come down here for our owner. We will assign this back out to our queue. So go back into member experience survey follow-up review queue. Priority will be medium. Record type ID, we're going to come back down here and use the case record type that we created for experience survey follow-up review. And our status we will put as new. Awesome. So we are going to just log this for our Journey Builder canvas, create keyword case. We'll hit save. We'll validate. And we will activate. So same thing, we're just going to run through this one more time and we're just going to test again. In this case, we'll want to make sure that we give either a happy score or a passive score. So we'll want at least a 7 or above. And then we're going to go through this keyword case and make sure that our decision split's working appropriately. Once again, I'm going to come out here and just clear our results. So make sure that we don't have any primary key violations. We'll make sure our journey actually activated. Looking good. All right, so we've got Tim, October 29th. In this case, we're going to hit 10. We're going to say that Tim loves us, but he is upset. Maybe, let's see, I'm upset the Patriots didn't win by more yesterday. Something silly like that. But it does contain that keyword upset, and that's what we really want to trigger our keyword filter. All right, and I'm going to match the case here. Just out of an abundance of caution. Awesome, so we've submitted, we've got our redirect. We'll come back into our survey results data extension. All right, here we go. We can see we've got a promoter score of 10, additional comments. I'm upset. Come back to our journey. We won't expect to see this on the canvas quite so quickly, but we should see that somebody was evaluated and accepted. Again, just moving a little quick for Marketing Cloud, still catching up over here. All right, so we'll come into CRM. I'm going to refresh our report. All right, so we've got our survey here. This is the one that was just created a couple moments ago. We've got I'm upset. We'll refresh Journey Builder one more time just to see if our canvas is caught up. Not yet, but if we come into our queues, oh, I'm in setup, excuse me. We'll come back to our case queue. And you can see we've got a different follow-up case created here. So again, this is the keyword follow-up. Member submitted a survey, tripped a keyword filter in their comments. Please review and follow up if necessary. So again, this is just going to make sure that we can actually come through. Maybe we'll come into contact. We should be able to see our survey there as well. We may not have set up the list view on this. We may not be able to see it here. Data related, lots of individual email results. Yeah, and it looks like we haven't put our survey related list. So that's certainly something you can do. If you wanted to be able to see your surveys down here on your related lists, we could then drop that in on the Salesforce side. You could see all of the surveys that this member may have left Jim. So in this case, we haven't done that yet. I'm not sure we're going to have time to explore it today, but really it's meant to be flexible. Same thing with your queues. We've set up just one queue for member survey, follow-up reviews. But if you wanted to have multiples, maybe you want a separate queue for product reviews, a separate one for transaction reviews for financial services use cases. You can kind of split those up and send those to different groups, right? So maybe your product managers want to be reviewing product feedback. You want your teller managers to be reviewing transactional surveys, things of that nature. So really meant to be kind of flexible and lots of different options with where you want to take it. I'm going to come back to Journey Builder just one more time here, just so we can see our canvas and just talk through the flow one more time. Awesome, we've loaded. So you can see here, we created that survey based on them submitting that and coming inbound. We've got our decision split here where we're evaluating that score. Again, you just want to be careful of your logic here. If they are, a detractor, let's say they're 6 or below in that case, we are going to create that follow-up review case. But if they're happy, we don't necessarily want to eject them. So, in this case, we may want to offer a testimonial just to people who've given us a 9 or 10. Excuse me, but for somebody who's 7 and 8, I may not want to ask them for a testimonial, but we do still want to evaluate those keywords. So even though they've given us a positive score, have they said something else of interest kind of in that comments field that's warranting a follow-up or at least warranting, review for a follow-up? All right, well, I think those are the big things that I was hoping to cover today. We talked about creating queues. We talked about creating the cases. I think one other thing we'll just take a quick look at before we break up for the day will just be our reports again. Again, we've got a member experience survey report here, but it's just tracking all of our surveys that come in, the accounts that are related, our promoter score results. I'm gonna take a quick look. Let's see if we can get our contact column in here too. Let's see that. So we'd have to do some work to bring that into our survey object or use a different report type if that's not available here. But again, top to bottom, the hope is that we're going to create an email to kind of trigger this out to our members. So how are we going to deliver these surveys out there? We use the Cloud Pages URL function within our email. So what we did was we set some things from our source data extension where this email is actually being triggered from. Primary key and contact ID being really important in our use case. Down in these images where we're actually showing these buttons to where they can select whether they're happy or not, we are using the Cloud Pages URL function. What that's allowing us to do is select the cloud page that we want to redirect our member to. Then we're also passing all of this information in there as well. Again, you certainly do not need to do this. You could just pass your contact ID, your primary key, for example, and then on your cloud page, you could do a look back into your data extension rather than trying to pass 5 or 6 different parameters just in the Cloud Pages URL function here. But that's the other important bit we're passing here is our promoter score. So if they click on 10, we want to make that available to them in the survey. Once they actually click that, they're going to get to our cloud page. We'll pop that open just for a peek behind the scenes for the folks who haven't made it in past weeks. So our cloud pages URL, or excuse me, our cloud page AMP script here at the top, we are requesting those parameters out of that URL that we're passing to the cloud page. We're going to set things like our contact ID and account ID. We're going to make that available for use in our smart capture form. We are using a smart capture form for our actual question here. We've got 2 questions, one of which is our promoter score based on your experience. How likely are you to recommend? And then what's the reason for your score here? And we've got that marked kind of as our additional comments. So these are presented to the user. They can fill that out, but we did want to capture some of that information that we're passing in the background. So we've got some hidden attributes as well. This is our primary key, account ID, and contact ID. When they submit the form, this data all goes into our target results data extension within Marketing Cloud. Grab the right tab here. So in this case, we've got our member experience survey results. That's where that form is actually hooked up to. And then we created a journey to actually create Salesforce objects and kind of process these results. So our smart capture form is used as the entry event. We've got an object creation activity here where we create the custom survey object that we created over in Salesforce CRM. We're relating it back to the account. We've got an owner ID. Additional comments field is mapped to what they submitted and is passed into that data extension. Same thing with our promoter score results. One thing we haven't touched on today, but did talk about in past weeks, was just our types and subtypes. So what is that architecture consideration in terms of being able to send multiple survey types, not just on member experience, but also on your transactions, your products. Maybe you've got events that you want to be able to survey on. So what's a good way to kind of structure this so you can have multiple surveys going out? You may reuse questions over survey types. Certain survey types are going to have very specific questions you wouldn't ask, in a webinar survey, like how was your experience at our branch, right? That's going to be a branch survey specific question. So you just want to do some thought up front to figure out, what do we think we're going to want to survey on so we can make sure we organize those appropriately. Once our surveys are created, we're coming through and then we're going to triage for follow-up. So we're going to evaluate, what was that score? Was it 8 or 9? Great, they're a promoter. Great opportunity for a follow-up email, trying to gather a testimonial. If it's a 7 or 8, they're passive, they're not happy, they're not upset. We're just going to kind of move them along. And if they are upset, let's create that case. And that's what we just walked through today. Creating on the CRM side, in terms of follow up and making sure that we're actually reviewing and reaching out to folks who are not happy. Again, passive and happy folks, we're going to put them through one more decision split. Let's evaluate those keywords. In this case, we just used upset, but you could certainly use branches, wait time, Experience is probably wiggly. Hopefully, you've got folks who are saying that they've had a happy experience, but maybe they've had a bad experience, bad, poor, angry, all great keywords to kind of be evaluating against. I think that about wraps it up for surveys. We've stretched this into 4 sessions, so we've got about 15 minutes left. If there are any questions, I'm happy to walk through it and we can keep poking around.
Yes,
Hit two.
Brulet. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So this
Awesome.
journey records about the survey, taking the survey from the users.
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time? I heard survey from the users.
Taking the survey, like whatever the user experience, we have to take this from the users
Mhm.
using this survey form. And after that, is there any no, nothing is there communication like email, WhatsApp, nothing is there? What is the reason for
Yeah,
this?
definitely. So communication is important. You can use this depending on what you want to survey on, really in a bunch of different ways. So something like this, where it's a member experience survey, we may not communicate back if they're happy with us, but that feedback is still going to be beneficial to us as an organization. Maybe they love their branch experience and they're going to write that. Maybe they love online banking. We'll be able to take that feedback and review that and figure out why do people like us, right? What should we put more resources into protecting and improving? Vice versa, if they're upset with us, that'll tell us, let's communicate with them before they, go tell other people that they're upset with us and that we're not great, right? Let's figure out how we can make this better. What can we do to improve our service offerings, to really make people want to use our products more. If it is a product survey, I keep coming back to financial services, but things like online banking, certain loan types. Maybe you want to survey on your mortgages, your HELOCs, and your auto loans all separately. That can help you identify if there are any challenges to your users in those specific products. Maybe your loan originators are awesome. They're doing a great job, but you're having some challenges in the processing area. And people love who they're interacting with, but it's taken forever to get these loans closed. That's something that they may be getting feedback on that can help you improve those specific products
Yes,
moving forward.
yes, yes.
Same thing on the event side, right? Maybe your events are awesome, people love the presenters, but they like to see different content. That's all stuff that you may get back in those comment sections.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Brulet.
Awesome.
So coming next class, what about that class?
Yeah, so
Oh,
we've got sessions every Monday morning. So what we'll be able to do is we'll have at least two more this year, I want to say. Let's go out actually to the Trailblazer community and check. So what I'm going to do is try to grab the Boston group. Let me see if I can grab the next one. Awesome. So this is, oh, sorry, I'm trying to reopen today's. That's not what I want to do. All right, so our next session, it looks like, is going to be next week. So we've got November 17th. I'm going to drop that specific one in the chat. And for any folks who are in the Boston area, we are doing a holiday event coming up. So we'll do a mixer, I want to say on December 9th. Tim and I have been talking. We probably won't run Marketing Club Mondays through the month of December. Just feels like demand usually drops off around the holidays while work gets busier for everyone. But that said, we do have a session scheduled for November 17th, and I would expect that we'll also create one for the 24th. So we've probably got two more sessions left this year for this Monday, 8 a.m. Timeframe holiday party. I mean, I know Tim's also putting on an exercise at the University of Vermont as well in a couple weeks, which should be awesome. My guess is we'll take December off and then we'll come back in January. But this Trailblazer Hub is absolutely the right place to be. I'm going to put just the Boston sessions here as well. You can register. Please join the group. You'll get email reminders when we create new events. Reminders for events that you registered to. It's the best way to make sure that you're plugged in for future ones. But generally, we'll try to meet every Monday as long as we don't have a conflict, and we'll go from there.
okay, okay, Brulet. Thank you.
You're
So
very welcome.
last
Cool.
last week we discussed about this agent force implemented in the Journey Builder, I guess, right? Uh,
Yeah, so I think with the agent force changes, we are hoping to explore that. I know we're coming up on the end of the year. We've got 2 weeks left. So we may try to get into some of that Marketing Cloud Encore goodness that they've just released. I think that we've been having some challenges with that partner org, that demo org, getting access to it. So I know Tim's been working with his account executive, just making sure that we've got everything configured. It's one of those things where we want to make sure that we've played with it a little bit before, we try to get other folks on it too. But half the fun's learning together. So as soon as we get access, we may try to break some eggs altogether. It's totally possible.
Yes. The same access you're going to provide with us as well, or else only for you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to get in there and configure that and learn together. I think we started to a couple weeks ago and ran into some issues where we just couldn't get it configured. I think Danella, I see your image on the screen here. I think you were in that session where we just ran into a
Yeah,
wall, couldn't get any further. So we're hoping to avoid that again. But once we've got access, we'll get in there and start running loose. So,
I think you have to connect it or something.
yeah. So we'll be, I know Tim is working with his AE, so hopefully that gets knocked out in the next couple weeks and we can pick up 2026 with it.
And maybe I can get logged in at some point.
Yeah, so I know we've been messaging back and forth. I think that's it's going to be tough without setting up a session to sit through and kind of go back and forth. I know it sounds like you'd mentioned all the troubleshooting steps already. I know you've had some challenges with support.
Yeah,
That's where the real trouble hits, right? Is if support can't
I,
get you in, it's
what I gather, because I've had the same problems with getting into DEs that I open up
Mhm.
and I'm like, I get into it and then I can't get back into it. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm wondering if it's like the access screen. Like you have to go back in when they send me an email. Apparently, I'm under the understanding now is that you have to go back through that email. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure
Yeah.
that out.
I know sometimes if you're using, and I'm not saying you are, but like if you're using Outlook, I know sometimes that can affect things. Same thing with like any corporate, screens that may be up there, like antivirus and stuff like that. Like I've had,
No,
um,
because I'm working off a home computer.
yeah,
So,
computer. Okay.
but yeah, I'm having trouble with my own DEs. And I've asked an architect who didn't even respond back to me at all, which is, it seems typical whenever I reach out for help. I get radio silence.
Mm,
Nobody responds,
yeah.
including Trailhead, if I put a ticket in. So I quit doing that because that's been pointless too.
Yeah. One
So,
thing that might be helpful is maybe we should spin up a new email address for a session and just go through getting that set up, right? We could create a test email address through Gmail and just walk through it from scratch and see how that goes. And that way, at least if that works out, it gives you a path. I know a new email just for Trailhead isn't great, but that might help rule out, anything else going on with your particular situation.
yeah, I don't know what to do. I had an entire app I was building, and it I can't even get into it after spending 5 hours. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, it's
It's real
frustrating.
life.
No fun.
It's kind of like you didn't hit the save button and it all disappeared. You got to start over.
The worst.
So, but yeah, I don't know I haven't figured it out. I think I tried after we got offline. I tried again, still couldn't get in. And I didn't do it after that because I'm like, well, I don't know if I should try again or not. So,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's a future session, right? Is trying to set that up and configure that, and we can all walk through that together. Because I'm sure you're not the only one having that. So I'm sure there's some.
possibly
Yeah,
the same problem, and they're getting frustrated.
yeah,
Nobody's answering why. And so when you're new, you're like, well, why?
yeah.
I log into everything else all the time with no problem. Why this DE? I don't know.
We'll have to get it
Why
sorted.
this particular org can I not get into?
Yeah.
It'll get solved eventually.
Well, I do want to say thank you to everybody else for joining for sure. Unless there are any other questions, I think we'll probably break up. I hope everybody has a great week, and yeah, hope to see you again next week as well.
Thank
Brulet,
you.
can you able to share that link that is like happened in a previous week?
Yep. So for the previous week, so I put this in the chat. We've got our YouTube channel. This is where Tim posts all of our videos post session. It may take a couple days, some weeks. but you should be able to find all of our prior sessions there. So for surveys specifically, we started with requirements. This was 13 days ago. And then on our hands-on Halloween session in person, we walked through actually getting that stood up and creating our email assets and our data extensions. And then last week we moved on to actually creating our journey to process that. So you probably want to watch at least the hands-on Halloween and last week's video. And then I think the requirements gathering is helpful. I do think it really sets the stage, but probably optional. We didn't actually build anything in this session here.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. And if you do have any ideas for content, please don't hesitate to let us know. I know it's been 4 weeks straight of surveys, so looking forward to look at something else, I think, at this point. So thanks again, and have a great week, everybody. Enjoy.